up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Life is Cooler with AC. I'm your host, Alex Cunningham, and today we've got probably the cuddliest person in comedy, a good friend of mine, Mr. Adam Wolf. What's up, buddy?
Not much, man. You can't give too many hugs, guys.
So
hugs are important.
So hugs and guys that's Adam's go-to.
And hugging guys.
And hugging guys. He loves it. Last night we had a little bit of a tribute show to a good friend of ours, late friend, Connor King. Adam was on stage for 7 minutes?
Yeah, I went way over the light.
Yeah, that's all right though, but I think you hit 15 guys.
So I bought this fancy camera.
Uh-huh.
So I had to watch the video.
Right.
And I said and about 740
right,
times.
Yeah. I was waiting for the guys, but you kept saying other shit, and I was like, "Oh man, like what is happening?"
I think because it was more off the cuff.
Right.
I didn't practice it as much, and so
you practiced the guys into it.
It just naturally happened as I practiced.
It just comes, guys.
If you look at my notebook, it's just guys.
It's just
a joke, guys. The next joke.
It's not even a joke. It's just an idea for
Some
a joke.
people use like dots for lists.
Right, you just
guys.
Alex Cunningham's a piece of shit, guys. So I know that Adam doesn't drink, and here on Life is Cooler with AC, we honor everybody, even the bitches. So he's drinking water, but I am actually going to try. It is Dancing Bee Strawberry Rosé. Dancing Bee is a local winery. Have you been there? It's in Temple.
I have not. I think I've seen signs for it, maybe.
Yeah, so they're a winery attached to a honey farm. So I feel like you're very health conscious. So, like if you like honey, like you can go check them out.
You'd be drunk as fuck, but it's healthy.
No.
Oh, just going there.
Just get the honey.
So the wine is just
made
one of the things.
Right.
Okay, I thought it was like a wine that had honey in it or something.
Well, there's that too.
Yeah.
You can do anything with honey. I went there and they're like, we've got everything. We've got facials. We've got fucking butt cream, like anything.
Lube.
Yeah, with honey. And I'm like, that's great. And they're like, thank the bees. And I was like, okay, thanks bees. And they're like, go back to the back corner. We've got bees. And the fuck, yes, they did. They had a corner full of bees, just like in glass.
I feel like the way, if that guy, that person talks the way you did, that person might be like a serial killer or something like Ed Gein. Like he has a pig farm, but he also kills people and wears their skin. It's creepy.
But he lathers it with honey. It's gonna be a delicious face mask. So we're going to try this. We always try new alcohols and stuff, but we're also using our Clay Plant Road, I think is how you say it. I'm horrible. That's probably a lot. Glass, wine glass that I got. They're super cool. They're all over the internet. You guys can check them out too. They're local to Indiana. Yeah.
And they say that you can make anything out of clay. So
do they?
Facials.
No, it's a lot like honey.
They hate the bee guys though.
It's like video killed the radio star, but the bees killed the plant man or the clay man.
They're mortal enemies.
So you said that you're nervous coming on here, and I can tell you're nervous. And I love nervous Adam because when you're on stage, you are very well collected, but I can see your little quirks.
Well, so everybody talks about how they have to find their voice, and I think I was lucky because my writing style just kind of fits my personality, so I didn't have to find a voice. So I had a buddy from Dallas, Wes Corin, and we did a show in Waco once, and after the show, he was like, dude, I really love this like awkward dad persona you have on stage. And I was like, yeah, persona.
I'm like Chris Dixon. I'm classically trained. I've nailed this.
Yeah, from birth, I've been awkward.
Yeah, so you are like the ultimate cat daddy.
Yeah,
you. That is just.
That's who I am.
So you guys need to check out Adam's stuff. Have you posted about Cat Daddy?
I did post I think I have a video from one of those sets somewhere online. I'd have to look.
That's you always Adam. I don't know why Adam is very self-conscious, he definitely he plays himself down a lot, but he's fucking hilarious, and he's got this bit that he does about cats and kitty litter, and that you always ask, what is your favorite joke of mine? That like it is so bizarre, but it is so funny.
Yeah, and I wish I could remember how that kind of popped into my head. I think it was just actually reading about the whatever fatal thing in kitty litter. It just went from there. And
so is it the litter, or so his joke? I'm not going to tell his joke, but it's just there can be birth defects, like as far as is it the kitty litter, or is it the cat piss?
I believe like if your cat's an outdoor cat, there's something out there that gets inside of it, like a toxin or a bacteria or something
that goes inside of your cat.
In the cat, yeah. Like if they eat a mouse or something. I don't know. I'm just making shit up.
But, he said I read this, but I remember none of it.
And then so if your cat's an indoor cat, you're probably safe. But if it goes outside and it's some kind of bacteria or toxin or something, that it can fuck a baby up.
It's probably the bees.
Yeah.
The bees and the honey.
The bees sting the cat.
No, so it's so funny because you talk about like all of these things, like that could happen if you're a kitty litter baby. So we're in a group chat with a bunch of other comedians, and I think I'm on like streak. Like a 5-day streak of how many times I can just drop in like, oh, it's a kitty litter baby. I just randomly say it.
That wasn't even. I don't think that was part of the original joke. I think I just said that on stage. And then it had to be part of the joke.
Oh,
and then
it's so good.
I started out with just a couple, and then at Corky's one night I tried to I printed out a whole long list.
I remember that. Yeah.
And I got to a certain point where I was like, okay, well, the first 5 or 6 were funny, and the rest are just like I'm just saying facts. This is a stereotype about cats, and nobody was laughing. It was funny to me, and Chris Dixon was laughing, but nobody else. And so I kind of cut it down to it's probably still too many things to say.
Facts.
Like I go way over the rule of 3, but they're all funny enough to where I think it works.
But and so whenever you do that, and you're like, kitty litter baby would do this, or and then we're like, all right, we got it, a kitty litter baby, and then when you hit us with the guys, it's so funny because we're just like, we can tell that you're just like, you're still into it.
Oh yeah.
So it makes it so much funnier, because if you were just like, yeah, so like kitty litter babies, like they do this and that, whatever, but anyway, let's talk about something else. But it's like, I'm going to keep driving this home, and it's so unfactual, and it's so made up.
But I love that I say the term kitty litter baby every single, like, I don't just say it every third one. I say it every single time, because to me that's funnier than the actual jokes.
Exactly. Yeah, and then like the very end, I'm not going to give your tag away, but where because they're babies, guys. It's so funny because like the way that you say guys is more of like it's almost like a crutch,
Yes,
like just a filler. But when you say it there, it's almost like condescending to the idea that like you guys don't understand what I'm saying. So I like that whole bit is probably my favorite bit that I've seen you do.
And I've been so for a long time I would just write one-liners and then try to work around, like maybe at first it was just totally unrelated one-liners, and that can be tough,
right?
Because it can kind of, the audience can get whiplash. Mm-hmm. Then I would try to group 2 or 3 one-liners together,
right?
And I still do mostly one-liners, but I try to have a ridiculous narrative combining them all. And but what I decided my goal, I guess, is that I want to be able to do more showcases, eventually feature and maybe headline or whatever. So I like focused my writing.
Yeah, no.
And so I want to have, right now I want to work on 15 minutes.
Absolutely.
And not a stagnant 15 minutes, but like 15 minutes that when you say, hey, there's a showcase, I can do it and I don't have to stress about memorizing.
Right, it's just rapid every time. Yeah.
And if I come up with a new 5 minutes that I like better, I can swap it out.
Yeah, for sure.
So that is the first 5 minutes that this is in my showcase.
Okay,
this is in my set. And I've kind of been frustrated because this yesterday was lately unusual for open mics because
right.
Classy and Corky's, for some reason, it's been really, the audiences have been sparse.
Yeah, not a lot of people.
And so I've been trying to work on the next part of my set. And
there's no one there.
All the comics have already heard it.
Right.
And I'm just trying to see, like, really focus on what works and what doesn't so I can fix it and make it better. But everybody's heard it, and there's like one guy in the audience, and it's like it's frustrating because I have a goal,
absolutely.
And it's kind of on hold because just the circumstances.
Yeah, but like honestly, I think in those times the best thing to do is just keep writing and then like keep saying it to yourself and like you have a job, you know, like your coworkers, just say random shit to them and see if it hits and be like, nah, that's a good one.
Yeah, I don't know if it was your podcast because I listened to 3 comedy podcasts. Yours is one's called Hot Breath, and the other's Breaking Down Bits. And somebody was talking about how she was told that if she's having a conversation and she says something that makes somebody laugh, to like notate it in her head, and write it down later.
Yep. Yeah, I do the same thing.
I've never been that type of person, but because I'm trying to focus more on, especially relatable, like if you can make somebody laugh in a conversation, that's the kind of jokes you want because you want to have that bond, that relationship with the audience.
Exactly. Yeah, a prime example of that, and I'm going to give away a joke that I have not even written yet, but it happened on stage the other day. It came up that I was from Terre Haute, Indiana, and somebody was like, oh, I'm from Gary, Indiana, and I was like, murder capital of the world, and then they start saying 97. I'm like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. They're like, we haven't been murder capital of the world since 1997. and then I realized he was wearing like a Dallas Cowboys jersey, and I was like, fuck, 97 was a big year for you, wasn't it, buddy?
So, like on their like, welcome to Gary, Indiana, underneath
murder capital of the world, 97.
Like in high school football games, 99.
Exactly. Yeah, 97 was a big year.
3rd place. 1999.
But so I want to work that into a bit, and it was something that happened for real, you know, like a real life situation. But I think it's funny because it's like, first of all, it's a real situation, you know, and it made everybody at the time laugh. And I don't think it's one of those things where it's like, oh, you had to be there, because if you can relay it, you know, like, and build the scenario, then I think it's going to be relatable anyway.
Yeah, and I've had other, like, our friend Chelsea, when she was first starting, she was asking about, like, oh, is this, I like this joke that I wrote, but I don't know if it's going to be relatable to guys.
Right,
it's about, like, women's cycles or whatever. And I'm like, they have a sister or a mom, or they, you know, like, you it doesn't have to be, you know, like such a general idea that everybody can relate, you know.
And with comedy, I've come to realize, you know, like, it's not all inclusive, you know, like, unfortunately, like, I'm not like, so you do a lot of like dad joke type stuff, right? Not everybody's a dad. Right. So not everybody is going to understand those, and that's okay. You know, like, the people who get them are going to love them, you know, just like not everybody has Crohn's disease. Not everybody, you know, so it's like finding your audience. Like, absolutely. You can't include everybody because that's going to cut out half the shit you want to talk about.
Yeah. And when you're at our level and you're doing like showcases, open mics, you kind of have to appeal to everybody or try your best. Otherwise you're going to, like, for example, my moon, I have a set where I just talk about how stupid the moon is. That kills in some rooms.
Right, absolutely.
And a lot of places I'm learning it doesn't do very well.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's not that it's not funny, it's just it's not
general
sensibility
enough.
Is not
but that's okay though, because I've come to realize, because I've done shit where, prime example, I just did that show in August with 1,000 people, great turnout, and then the following week I came back and I did a show in front of like 10 people, same set, everything was the same, not a single laugh all fucking half an hour, and I was like, they loved it. I think it's a you problem, you know, but it's like, not everybody's gonna like your shit, but that's okay, you know, because like, the more you say it, the more people you're in front of, your fans are gonna find you.
And when I first started comedy, a lot of times I heard people say, oh, it's never the audience. And I do believe there are certain things that a comic can do, you know, like, there's a lot of times when it is the comic's fault, you know?
For sure.
But there are times, I mean, we've been to like Corky's or some of these open mics down in Austin or whatever, where there's nothing
you can do.
You know, I mean, it could be I mean, unless you're Kevin Hart and you come in and people see you and they shut up because you're,
Yeah, totally different because that's a pre-notion that you're already funny.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter what you say. You could walk outside. You could walk out and be like, I got hairy toes, and everybody's gonna laugh, and they're like, oh shit, me too. But it's like because they already think you're funny,
and that's why like a lot of people they'll do their first open mic and bring all their friends and family, and they'll kill it.
Exactly.
And then the next week they do it. I think Justin told a story about that. The first open mic he did, his whole family was there, and he thought, "Oh, I'm the greatest."
Yeah, this is
then
it.
The next week, nobody that knew him was there, and he didn't do so well.
Yeah, because they don't know those stories.
Yeah,
you know, and like that's I think one of the hardest parts because writing is definitely, in my opinion, the hardest part of comedy.
Yeah,
so. Whenever you have people who understand you already, it's like your writing could be shitty, but they're like, "Oh, I remember that time that you're talking about." Like I was there too. That shit was funny. But to a group full of strangers, they're like, "I don't know what the fuck you're talking about." Like you've got to frame it totally different. Yeah,
and for me, I think now I do have to admit, like writing like killer material is one of the hardest parts of stand up, but for me. Because I'm so awkward and because I don't have like a background of performing like you do, for me, for almost the whole time I've been doing stand-up, the actual performing is the hardest part for me.
Like being in front of people?
I was writing jokes on Twitter for like 2 or 3 years before I started doing stand-up comedy.
Oh, okay.
So,
gotcha.
I mean, and that was, especially for somebody that does one-liners, that was an amazing training ground because back then it was 140 characters. You had to make a joke
real quick
in as few words as possible, and so I feel like I did my jokes did well my first open mic,
right? But
I had my hands in my pockets. I had I was like just focused,
zoned
hyper focused on the microphone. I was super scared because I did my first open mic at Cap City, and they're kind of strict about, or they were. They haven't done the open mic at the new one, but they kind of make a big deal about the light because they're strict about getting out at a certain time. So I feel like I was rocking back and forth like one of those elephants that have been in captivity for like decades. And so I've had conversations with like Philly about this where he's like, man, I wish, because he gets up there and like you get up there and you can just improvise and do crowd work, and it's hard for me to do that.
Have you tried to just do a whole crowd work session?
I've never gone up said that I'm going to do that, but the last 2 times before last night that I did Corky's, I got up and I was like, you know what, there's no point in me doing any material.
Right,
so I told a few jokes, but mostly I just kind of, it helped that it was mostly comedians that I know, and so it's not like it's a crowd of strangers,
right?
So that does help, but I really haven't done a night where I was like, okay, well, I'm going to go up there and I'm not going to do prepared material, and maybe I need to do that sometime.
I think it's worth it because whenever I started doing that, like it was like, oh shit, like you unlock something, and then you start to pay attention. So it's like last night, that guy that was like talking about getting the blowjob, and then like she pulled out her dip or whatever, and I was waiting on that tag that I got up, and I was like, that wasn't a blow, that wasn't getting head, that was getting skull, like that's just but he didn't say it, so I was like, I'm gonna say it. But what does that do? That makes you start thinking about other people's shit, so you just start riffing off of other shit that people are saying or people are doing, and then it's like, now I don't need material because the material is here.
I've done that when I'm hosting, because a lot of times when you're hosting, especially if the show's going well, you don't want to get up there, or an open mic where there's a lot of comics and you don't have time to do several minutes of your material. You might want to get up there and make a joke about the last guy. And so I have worked on, when I was hosting more, listening to the set and, okay, well, I remember I wrote a joke about this, or it just made me think of something funny. And sometimes it fails.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And that's the risk we take, though,
I had we were doing I used to do a show at the Brazos Theater up in Waco. It's still going, but my friend Paul runs it. And there was a comic, he did a whole set about his dad was cutting the grass and had a heart attack and died. And so my mom had passed away like less than a year prior to that. Mm-hmm. So I went up there and I was like, I can't remember exactly what I said, but I was like, I had written some jokes about my mom's passing, and tonight I learned that dying of a heart attack is a lot funnier than dying from cancer, the audience did not like it.
Oh, really?
No, they did not like it. So
see, and that's what's so hard, especially when it comes to dark humor. Because like when we just did the chip challenge the other day, I was watching my clip. I've watched it like 5 times because like I thought it was fucking hysterical.
Yeah.
And toward the end, I was like, my mom hung herself. And now I know what it feels like to not be able to breathe. And it's funny because like the crowd, as soon as I said it, you heard them like clam up, you know. And then they were like, "Oh shit, this is funny. We can laugh," you know. So it's like it's always a 50-50, you know.
Yeah, and that's at an open mic. I guess I don't think it's as big a deal. It still can be a problem, but it's that balance you have to find because you can. I've seen comics get up and tell some offensive jokes or dark humor, and then it like the crowd shifts like for the rest of the night, and it. I mean, it's an open mic, so it is what it is. But on the other hand, it's kind of unfair to the other comics.
For sure,
you know?
Absolutely. But you know, like one thing, and you may have a totally different idea about this, but one thing that I tell people, because you know, with running shows and everything, people are like, "Oh, well, am I allowed to bring notes up? Am I allowed to do this and that? And can I say this and that?" And I'm like, if the venue doesn't tell us like no this or this, it's your fucking time to shine, buddy.
Oh, yeah,
you know, whatever you think is gonna make your performance the best it can fucking be, like it's your show. You know what I mean? Like that time slot is yours. So like do whatever you want, and maybe it does shift the audience. You know what I mean? But that makes the guy behind you have to work a lot fucking harder. You know, so I think that's gonna show. You know, like are you a professional or are you just somebody who does this on the weekend? You know?
Yeah, and I think that's something, and I've been doing comedy for a while, but there was a lot of time periods where I would only get to go up once or twice a month. You know, and like it was more than twice a month. It was a good month for me.
Okay,
and so
gotcha.
I'm still behind what, you know, the time I've been doing it seems like a lot more than what I've actually been doing. And so I'm still learning how to feel out the audience and kind of think about, okay, well, I can't get political or you know, like it's an adult show, but I probably shouldn't, you know, tell these anal fisting jokes or you know, like, you know,
see, and that's hard, you know, and like especially I've learned when it comes to political jokes, and like I lived in LA, and it was during the Trump administration, and everybody just did nothing but political jokes, you know, and you're talking about liberal LA. They weren't laughing because I think after a while you're like I see it on the fucking news, I see it on Facebook, I see it all over the place. I came here to listen to something else, you know, so that's why I stay away from politics. But if you can do it fun, because I've heard people do really good, political jokes, but I'm not good at it because first off, I don't fucking follow politics close enough to even know what's going on, you know, but as far as the fisting jokes go, I mean, that's my fucking forte. Like, I love making crowds uncomfortable. You know, like with my crones, and like, I mean, you weren't there the other night on Tuesday, but me and Jeremiah started talking about, you know, like two assholes and, you know, like what it was like to, you know, like have a large hole open on your ass cheek. And I mean, we're just in a restaurant, you know, and like the waitress keeps coming up and like, are you guys all right? And like, we have to like stop what we're talking because we're like, yeah, you know, his ooze is coming out of my ass. You know?
There's quite a few times when you're with a comic and you're talking and you kind of realize, what do people around us think? You know, 'cause I think comics, and it, for me, from being a veteran, I think the military is kind of the same way. You kind of deal with, not all comics, most comics have some kind of trauma in their life. You know, like we go on stage to get affirmation from strangers. So there's something we're missing. And, and I think that's how we deal with things. And you know, there is a certain thrill. When you tell a joke and like half the crowd's laughing, like a quarter of the crowd it's like a nervous laugh, and then like some lady like just is like
crosses her arms.
There is it. To me, it's equally satisfying.
Oh,
to
absolutely.
A certain extent, you know.
Yeah, because like that's what it is. Our job to make you feel something. You know, like of course we always want you to feel you know, like feel like laughing, but sometimes, you know, like it's not the laughs, it's the gasps. You know, because it's like I'm provoking some sort of feeling. So like, what you're connecting with what I'm saying in some way. It may just not be funny to you, but it's making you feel fucking something.
Well, I had probably 3 weeks ago at Corky's, and I don't remember what set I was doing, but it might have been the Cat Daddy set where I make a few jokes about the tree that didn't kill Greg Abbott.
Uh-huh.
But whatever it was political. It was probably that joke. And there was a couple in the front, and the wife was laughing, and the husband was not. But then the last tag that I did, I saw a smirk on his face.
Oh, okay.
And I called his ass out. I was like, I know you don't like, politically we don't agree, but I saw you laugh. I got you, man.
Exactly. See, and that's what's so funny because, it's so easy to disagree on politics in today's time, but funny's funny. You know what I mean? And that bit where you start talking about, Arbor Day and that is funny.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think people are so tied up in well, I have to stand for this and I have to. It's you also can fucking loosen up, dickhead.
Yeah, it's the same people that their whole identity is, I'm a Cowboys fan or
exactly. And it's nobody cares outside of your crazy little world. We all coexist in this on this rock, drifting through outer space. You know, it's okay to loosen up and to laugh at something that is funny.
Yeah, and I feel like in the comedy world, you have people that are they try to keep neutral because politics and then but I feel like a lot of the people that are more vocal are more left leaning.
Yeah, for sure.
But I've definitely for example, Pat No, he's kind of in the middle.
Yeah,
and he's told a few jokes that were the owner of the Brazos Theater. She was like, that joke that Pat No told was really offensive, and it wasn't because it was any more offensive than any other jokes, but it was because it was about trans people.
Oh, gotcha.
And
okay.
so it offended. It wasn't the joke.
Right.
It was that it was something that was important to her.
Right.
And,
see, and that's what's so frustrating because I've never talked to Pat No about his political views or anything, but if I were to guess, he would be more libertarian. Just somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, I think he's more liberal in some areas and more conservative in others.
Exactly.
And,
And I think that is a good place to be because you can see both sides.
Yeah.
And you can point fun or poke fun, whatever, at your own views as well. Because you can see it from an outside perspective. And I think you have to be able to do that, especially when it comes to comedy, because you have to be able to find your own flaws. Because if you have them, so does probably 5 other people in the room.
Well, and you have to empathize with the things that comics are talking about. You have to put yourself in their shoes because D1 talks about stuff it's funny to me, but I don't live that life. Or Brennan talks about this, or all these different. And that's one thing I love about our comedy scene is that it's such a variety of personalities and ethnicities and just beliefs, and so there is a level of empathy and putting yourself in somebody else's shoes so you can laugh at their experiences. And I think people get to a certain, whether it's politics or religion or whatever, that you get so set in yours that you don't you almost don't believe that other people should have a different opinion. Not even accept that, okay, I accept your opinion, I understand it, but I don't agree. They're you shouldn't even have that opinion.
Right,
that's not good.
And that makes it hard. And that's why, I constantly tell people that comedians are modern day gladiators, right? Because we are just out here, are you not entertained? But because that's what we are. But we have to entertain within their arena. Right? We have to follow their rules. But it's as soon as you break away from their rules and you actually become entertaining, that's when they start to fear you. And that's what I love about comedy, because it truly is the last form of free speech, I think. Because look at the news, look at papers, and it's all being dictated by the guy at the top.
And the corporations.
Right? Exactly. Yep. And well, we're not going to print that. You're not allowed to talk about that topic. Oh, that's too right leaning. That's too left leaning. Whatever it may be. And with comedy, I'm going to get out there and I'm going to fucking talk about, the other night I called some couple out and I was like, why have I never seen you before? They're like, we're usually busy at night. And I'm like, what are you, fucking prostitute?
I remember that. That was
he hated it, but she was fucking laughing her ass off, but it's you have to be aggressive in some of those ways because you don't have a guy at the top, and maybe you shouldn't say all the things that you do say or whatever, but fuck that, we'll figure it out in the end.
And that's like, Doug Stanhope, right? Like he's like one of those comedians comics, and he has made a point of never, like he has never been like on a TV show, like,
okay,
or like he never put himself in a situation where he had to like, okay, I can't say this or I can't do this.
Right. My publicist wouldn't like this.
If I don't, then I'm not going to be able to be on this Nickelodeon show
right.
or whatever. And so he produces all his comedy specials.
That's awesome.
He has his own companies, publishes his specials, all that. It's through his website. It's all self-made, and I agree with most of his views, so it's not offensive to me. But
right.
I know there are a lot of people where he kind of pushes buttons. But he doesn't give a fuck because he doesn't,
who's going to fire him?
Nobody's going to cancel him because he has his fans and they're going to like him no matter what.
Exactly.
And so, there is like envy of that type of situation because
for sure.
when you get to a certain point of being famous, your crowd's going to be there for you. The people that buy your ticket they know you, and like we were talking about earlier, and to not have that pressure for your material or whatever.
To where you can just do your art form.
To be able to tell my moon set and know that it's going to kill every time.
Exactly.
It is there's just a lot of work.
Yeah.
That's why
it's difficult to get there.
It's a hobby, and I set my sights very reasonable on where I want to be right now, because I'm old, I need sleep.
Colonoscopies.
I have a certain lifestyle that I'm accustomed to, and to give that up and go tour and live out of my car, and
right.
that is a big risk and a big sacrifice.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And so, and to get to that level to where you can just go do, and I'm sure it still feels like a job sometimes, but a lot of those comics, I think it's just fun for them.
Yeah,
like they're living the dream.
Exactly.
And to get to that level, unless you're lucky and you just skip all that, it is a lot of work.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, I think that's where like the Facebook famous and like all that stuff, really comes into play. But no, like I think that's like what I kind of look forward to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because like I love just going to like different places and like meeting different people.
Oh, yeah,
and
yeah.
It's like this is the grind, like just not knowing, like we do Corky's every Wednesday, like we do this every Monday, and it's like, nah, it's different every week, different city, different people.
And that's what I'm trying to break out of. Not necessarily like get in the car and go tour, but if you say, hey, can you do this show in this place? A lot of times, because I'm a creature of habit, I do this on Mondays, I do this on Wednesdays, Friday, I do that, my initial reaction sometimes is like, oh man, I'm going to be tired on Friday, usually Fridays, and so I really am pushing myself to get out of that and to not be so nervous about doing comedy in new places and remind myself that, except for the first showcase, like I took a long break during COVID. When I came back, my friend Christopher Seeley invited me to do a showcase, and I ate like literal shit on the stage. It was the worst I've bombed in a long time. But since then, every showcase I've done, some were better than others, but I've made
on
people
all of
laugh.
Ours, you've done really well.
And so, I have to remind myself that, Jack Black once told a story about one of his first movies. He was kind of like me, like, why am I here? And he said he would literally go into a closet, close the door, and just like hype himself up like some wrestling, like 80s wrestling, like promo, like telling himself, you're worth it. You're,
That's
and
awesome.
So I don't do, like go into a closet and close the door and yell at myself, but I do
the coming out of the closet you don't do.
No, I don't. Continue. I definitely don't do that. No, it's way like I'm in Narnia. That's how far I'm in the closet, man.
It's a wardrobe.
But I've tried, but it's not my thing.
But no, like for real, and like because I noticed you do, like at shows and stuff where like you pace back and forth and like you almost mouth to yourself, And like I really I love the fact that that's real, you know, because like there's so many people that will just like sit there and like act like they're not stressing out, and it's like, dog, I can tell that you're fucking stressed. Like just relax, but you're like, I'll be fine, and it's like every time you get on stage, you're fine, So like just kind of knowing that, I think kind of gives you an upper hand, because you don't have to stress like what's gonna happen.
And it's a lot of times it's a fake it till you make it thing.
Absolutely.
That for, like I said, when probably the first few years until I found a group of friends in Killeen, and we kind of had I don't know what else was going on, but I didn't know of any open mics or anything going on, so we kind of had to build it ourselves, a tiny little thing. And until then, I didn't get a lot of practice, and even then I was nervous, and it was just a matter of just pretending I'm going to go up there. And now, like, I'll like, my girlfriend will come see a show, and I'll get, on the way home, I'll tell her, man, I don't know if you could tell, but I stumbled on this joke, and it really, like, inside, it kind of messed with my head, and it took me a few jokes to where, I got back into my rhythm, and she was like, no, I didn't notice. Like,
so yeah, and that's great, yeah. And I'm trying to think, it might have been at Fox, or was it in Waco, the show that we just did, where you were like, oh, I missed this joke, or I missed this punchline, or
Oh yeah. In Waco, like, I've been closing with, and I may have to retire it for a little bit because the Jeffrey Dahmer series is a huge deal, and I think people are, maybe we'll see if people start coming out with Jeffrey Dahmer jokes. But the closer is I say I tell several, like, really bad dad joke Jeffrey Dahmer jokes that they're just cheesy enough that they make people laugh,
right.
And then I follow it up at the end. It seems like I'm calling up the host, and I'm like, let's make some noise, and I let everybody start clapping for Jeffrey Dahmer, and then I shame them,
right?
And I forgot that part.
Okay.
And so you had might have been you, or somebody mentioned it to me. Oh, you forgot it, and I kind of beat myself up for.
Gotcha.
But
okay.
That was I had a good set.
Yeah. No,
like,
and that's So like that's what I was getting to, was that, like, you mentioned that you messed something up, and I was like, so it must have been somebody else that brought it up to you, because I was like, I didn't notice anything. Like, it was solid from when you got on to when you got off. So I don't know what, like, where you missed. So, like, that's good.
But I told a joke, and I think I told it at Fox Dog and Trina, or not Trina. What did we do? Oh, Stone Eagle out in Comanche. Yeah. Where I talk about being nervous, and
I love that joke,
and how I'm my own worst critic. But that's, like, it's the truth. And I think a lot of creative people are like that, where like, you hear about these musicians that they take, like, 50 takes, and, like, they spend weeks, like, working on perfecting a song. And I think comics are the same way, but we don't get that we kind of do, and we don't get the like a performance. We don't get to fix things in the moment. But,
right.
Like, if you write a book, once you put that book out, that's it.
Yeah,
but
it's published.
A comic, you can, I mean, I guess when you put a comedy special out, like, that's, you kind of have to retire those jokes.
Yeah.
But you mess something up, or it's like, oh, this isn't funny, or I could make this better. You get that opportunity to rewrite and make it better.
Just go back to, yeah.
So it's kind of, there's not a lot of art that's like that, I guess.
Right, yeah.
Where once, like I said, unless you do a comedy special, and
yeah.
you gotta, you can tell that joke 50 times and you still get to make it better.
Exactly.
That,
yeah, like, so, I post shit all the time, and I'll do, like, the first take of it, you know, like, first time I say it out loud, first time it's on stage, whatever. And then it's like, people are like, oh, well, this was a new joke. Why'd you post it? And it's like, because next time you hear it, it's going to be a different joke.
Yeah.
Like, so it doesn't really matter. What you're going to do is you're going to start to see the evolution of the jokes.
Yeah.
And to me, that's so much cooler, because not everybody gets to see your writing. They just get to see, like, the final product, So seeing, like, oh, it started here, and then it's something totally different, but the premise is is the same. Like, to me, that's really, really neat.
Especially the non-comics probably don't get to see that. Like, we get to see you at the open mics, and you may pull out, like every other open mic, pull out the same joke and tweak it a little bit. There was I don't know if he still does comedy, but there was a guy, Derek Fields, an Austin comic, and he used to come to Killeen and do some of our shows, and he told a joke. He was a single dad, and he told a joke about his son. And I kind of, this is also, I learned that where you can do the same set. I always thought, oh, I need new material.
Yeah, every time.
And so, like, I'd have him come, and sometimes it'd be just a slight tweak. Like, he'd sell this part first, or he'd change the way he set it up.
Yep.
But then, like, I wouldn't see him for a couple of months, and he'd show up, and like 10 minutes of his set would be completely new, and it'd be awesome. And then he'd do that one bit again, and he would just like, I would be surprised it was that bit, because he had changed the setup, or changed, he had so many tags that it almost seemed like a different joke. And then when he got to the punchline, I was like, holy shit.
There it is.
And so that's something that I really have been pushing myself this past time where I started going to Corky's and started like really going at it again is don't write a joke. Oh, it did well. Now I have new jokes. Just pull up these jokes that are old and work on them.
Yeah,
and
make them better.
Yeah, and it really has helped.
Yeah, that's Chris Ward, which he was at by the time this is posted, I think 2 comedians ago on the podcast, and that was one thing I said to him. I was like, Chris, I've never seen somebody work so fucking hard on their writing.
Oh yeah,
like you will legitimately write a joke, it does well, and you're like, not good enough, and go back and rewrite it and make it fucking better. And I'm like, how do you do that? Like, I don't have the fucking patience.
Yeah, and it is funny how he can. The joke is so familiar. He keeps the tone and the core of the joke, but then he adds like this little tag here, that little tag, or he, like one time he'll pull up his shirt, the other time he doesn't. Or,
exactly.
And it's just
and it changes it so drastically. Like I've seen him do jokes where he will say, "This is the punchline," right? And one time the build-up is, talking about like his kid, like his unborn children, and then the next time he's talking about his multiple personalities, but it's got the same fucking tag.
Yeah.
Both are good, but they're so unique in themselves that he could use both of them as standalone jokes. But they also are so like the rating is different. So depending upon what show he's doing, he could fucking use this for PG-13. He could use this for an R show. So like it's just the way that he does it. The formula is just so baffling to me.
And that it is a good indication that he write, because that comes with writing. Like,
oh, absolutely.
Because I write, like when I'm at work, I'll read like a news article or I set myself a challenge where, because I was doing too many political jokes, because that's just all in our face, like we were saying earlier.
Right, yep.
If I'm reading a news article about like whatever, the Grand Canyon or something, my goal is to write a joke about whatever news article I'm reading. So like it doesn't have to be the subject, but if I read something that makes me think, oh, that's funny, or if I listen to a podcast like a history podcast, even if it's not the main topic, like the Oregon Trail, like if they talk about like oxens or something, I might write a joke about that to push myself. And so I have all these different jokes that I, different subjects, and I usually I have a notebook, but it's more of a prop. So I'll tweet the joke, some form of it. And so I have like a virtual notebook, and you can download your Twitter archive, and it has this cool search thing.
Oh, that's neat. Have I ever written anything about this topic before?
So like the alcohol, I did a bit that I need to go back to about being, like it's weird to do comedy when you used to drink, had a drinking problem. And so I just would search like alcoholism, alcohol, booze, beer, like, and try to fit those jokes if I can. And I think sometimes it makes it so it's not like yesterday, because I wrote it all at one time and I didn't try to fit any jokes in there. It was just a natural. So sometimes I think it does make it seem less real or less personal and more artificial. But I think there is
more forced.
There is a place for that, like a Stephen Wright kind of comedian. He doesn't talk about his personal life. He tells just weird one-liners, or like even Mitch Hedberg.
Exactly,
it wasn't so there is a place for that. But
for sure,
I definitely feel like I like it when you can have that connection with the audience. So, but there's a couple of jokes that I have that I can fit into multiple. Like I've told the same punchline, like you're talking about, in multiple sets that have nothing. They don't have anything to do with it.
Right.
It's a good joke, and sometimes that can be a curse too, because you have like 7 jokes that could fit into the set, but how can you?
Yeah, how do you pick the best one? And
you can't. I can't transition. This joke is too close to this one. They're both hilarious.
Right.
Yeah, it is a. It's a good problem to have that you have too
absolutely,
many jokes.
Yeah. And like that's something that I've never really had to deal with, because like all of my stuff is more, personal stories, that like maybe I can use, like this tag would fit in this joke, but like I don't really deal with that problem.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because like I just tell this story, and like sometimes they're funny, like that's how it is, but like when you go in and you're like, I'm going to write like, remind me about the circus show, because I want to talk about that. But when you're writing, you're setting out with a purpose, where like when I'm writing, I'm just like, oh, that was funny. Let me write it down.
Yeah.
You know, so totally different. But so we're doing this circus show on, is it the 22nd? Or is it no, the 26th?
Yeah, it's not the 22nd.
Yeah, that's
I'll
a
be out of
Saturday.
town.
Yeah, it's the 26th. So we're doing for these guys, we're doing a circus themed open mic where we're dressing up because it's gonna be the Wednesday before Halloween, and Connor, our friend that just passed away, he wanted to do this, so we're going to do it to honor him, and he's going to be the ringleader, and we're going to be in different characters. So you just said into our group that you're doing a character, but you're writing jokes as this character?
Yes, yeah.
Fucking mind blown.
I'm trying to challenge myself. Now I have 2 weeks, so I'm not gonna write any other sets. If on
absolutely.
Monday, I'll probably do a different, set that I've already written.
Uh-huh.
But I think it's going to be funny. It's going to be something that everybody already relates to me in a way, and I just think that it's the kind of character that you don't have to be like a Frank Caliendo like impersonator kind of person. So I can. There's a podcast. Well, in fact, I'm wearing the shirt. Last podcast on the left.
Okay.
There's a guy on the podcast, Henry Zabrowski. He's an actor, and he started with improv and all that. He does characters.
Okay.
They're not the actual, like it's not like he studies the person. It's a comical thing where it's not the exact thing, and so I think I can do it to where, and then the jokes they can be funny, but they don't have to be my best material.
Oh,
because
absolutely.
The fact that I'm being the ridiculous character is gonna make it funny no matter what.
Yeah.
So, and it's one of those instances because I try to push myself. Like I have a goal every time I go up. I'm going to do an act out. Or I'm gonna, even if it's just I'm going to not say like 50 million times. I try to have at least one goal to accomplish while I'm up there. And so this is going to be one of those things where I'm going to step out of my shell of safety.
Right.
Yeah, so I'm excited about that.
I'm excited because as soon as you sent that and as soon as I read it, I told my wife and she was like, "That's really cool." And I was like, "Yeah, that's fucking awesome." Because like with acting and stuff like that, like you always hear about, actors that are like, "Well, I want something that's gonna, like be more challenging, like something that gives me depth, you know." So I'm looking for a challenge, So when you're taking on a different perspective and trying to write humor from a different viewpoint, I've never even thought about that because I just write it from me,
and it's a really good, if you plan on, and Philly and I were talking about this, like the money that in comedy comes from like writing a lot of time, like unless you get lucky and hit it huge,
right?
Like writing for a TV show or whatever, and when you put in your packet for those shows, they give you like a random TV show to write for, not even necessarily the show that you're writing for,
right? And
you have to write an episode for that show, that fits, those characters and all that, and so it is. It's a challenge that I think could benefit, if I decide to pursue writing or whatever, and and I feel like obviously I'm not the first person to do it. There's a show in Austin they used to do every year where it was like a celebrity death pool show.
Okay, yeah,
and so it would always be like I can't remember Norm. I can't remember his last name. He would always play the devil.
Okay.
And then the comics would be like a person that died the past year.
Gotcha. Okay.
And so it's not a completely original idea, but
right.
It's for me it's new.
But
it's a challenge.
Yeah, and it is unique because like in LA we had one and it was like you could be, and it was always around Halloween, and it was like you could be a dead or like kind of like past prime comedian, like you couldn't be Kevin Hart, you had to be somebody from like the 80s 90s or before, so it's so neat because you have to write new jokes, like you can't go do their jokes, but you have to write like jokes in their style, and then like pretend to be them delivering jokes that you wrote as them, like that's a fucking flex now.
And it's it'll be the first time. I've never written as a character, or I've helped people write, and I do think, for example, like Chris Dixon and I have a very similar sensibility of comedy. So it's easier for me to write or help him like punch up his jokes than like maybe you, because you tell stories and that's right. But it is a challenge to that I'm giving myself. I think it's gonna be fun.
I think it's great, and like I'm super excited because, like I said, just like from when we started, together, kind of, when I met you. It's just night and day between the way that you perform, the confidence that you have, and you've just so I see that you are challenging yourself and going all these different directions. So it is really neat. I know we're gonna get low on time here, so we're gonna go to the icebox that you thought was so much bigger.
So I was telling Alex, like, he always talks about, oh, you guys watching the podcast, and to me, because I'm old school, like a podcast is all audio. So just like I always want to correct you, but I always listen. So when they're talking about this infamous ice chest that his beautiful wife made, I'm thinking like something like she took this old chest and sandpapered it down and put varnish on it and like decorated it, and it's just it's just pottery or something. What is it?
Yeah,
styrofoam pottery.
No, it's I don't know.
It's a very nice.
Yeah, I made it when I was in high school.
It's not made of clay, is it?
It's clay, yeah.
Don't let those bees find out.
Yeah, see, so that is why I've got the clay plant road, because fuck them bees is what I'm saying. But so, you know how it works. Do you want to pick the question?
All right, sure, I'll pick one. This is the part I'm kind of worried about because I'm not good at improv.
Oh, there's no improv. You just answer the question.
All right. Is there a quote or motto that you live by or stick to? Caleb Ingle. Who's Caleb?
That's my cousin.
Your cousin.
Yeah. He's a nice guy.
Yeah.
He's got a better goatee than I do.
Let me think. I don't know. I think lately, I don't know necessarily that it's a motto or a quote, but starting with when my mom passed away, and then there's been a few comedians, and it's always the nice ones. It's never like the assholes that I won't name any names in our scene, but I really life is short, and so you get into like somebody close to you passes away, and you're like, oh man, I told a joke about this where like my mom passed away, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna travel more and all this stuff, and you're hyped up. And then with my mom, I finally got out of my funk and decided, oh, this is what she would want. She wouldn't want me. Then COVID hit, and I was like, oh, I can't do it. I didn't want to do that stuff anyways. But like, so like a coworker passes away, or with Connor, it kind of reminds you life is short.
Right.
You need that because you get, like, especially me, I'm a creature of habit. So like life is short, and the older you get, the shorter
it gets. There goes one more day, more colonoscopy.
Yeah,
I keep saying colonoscopies because he just got one 3 days ago, so he got the joke. I hope you guys are enjoying his discomfort. That's why he's sitting weird. It's not because he's nervous; it's because his asshole's still
slightly
swollen.
Weirder than I normally am. For the sake of promoting men's health, like. We were talking about this last night. I had a colonoscopy in 2005. I had a lot of rectal bleeding from internal hemorrhoids.
Oh, okay.
And
those are fun.
It was a very painful and like just shocking and like explosive experience. And it was this experience. It was like over-the-counter medicine. It still sucked, but it was a lot easier than the last time. So if your doctor tells you to go get a colonoscopy, don't. Also vasectomies, they're a lot easier than you think. It's they give you Valium, like it's. If they tell you to get a colonoscopy, do that. If you don't want kids, do it. Like don't make excuses. Yeah.
So what Adam Wolf is saying, if you feel unhealthy, schedule a doctor's appointment, get a colonoscopy, and say, while I'm out, doc, just go ahead and snip it.
Yeah.
He said, I want to knock both of these out at the same time.
Your proctologist in the back, your, I don't even, whatever they're.
Would that be urologist?
Urologist, yeah, I think
Would it be?
Yeah.
Well, it's because it's not urine.
They're surgeons. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Just give me the old nip tuck.
It's not urine?
Huh? It's not urine.
I haven't peed since I got my vasectomy. I got a sheep. I got a Groupon. Groupon vasectomy.
They clipped the wrong tube. I pee out of my butt now. No wonder you had to get that call. Doc, I'm pissing out of my ass. That's awesome. Well, we're gonna cut it there. Thank you so much for agreeing to this. It took him an hour and a half to get here on an hour drive because traffic is so shitty.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, but he drove all the way after work. I don't know what he does. He doesn't tell anybody. He's kind of he's probably a hitman, if I were to guess.
I work at a proctology school. I'm the like they have the barber schools where
he's learning how to do a different kind of cut.
It's more authentic if it's a person that gets all the exams. So
oh, you give the exam?
No, I'm receiving.
Oh,
instead of having a robot butt.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, so realistic.
So you're the dummy.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. You're the So rather than just having a rubber CPR asshole, they're like, here's Adam Wolf. Thank you, guys. I'm a comedian. This is my day job. Believe it or not, it's not as shitty as my night job.
It's probably not the worst job a comedian has, if that is a real job.
Oh, well, we're going to Google it after this. We're going to find out.
Worst jobs for comedians when they're not doing stand-up.
Yeah. Being a CPR asshole. Dummy. But no, thank you, man, so much. And then what is your socials that you want people to go check out? I know you're working on a new podcast.
Yeah, so on, I think everything but Facebook, I'm Adam Wolf 77 because this Twilight-loving asshole that never tweets anything has Adam Wolf. On Facebook, just search for me, and you'll see if you're friends with Alex, we'll be mutual friends. The podcast is probably not going to come out for a while because we're going to build up a few episodes.
Okay.
It's going to be called They Said I'm Funny.
Okay.
And it's targeting people that either are barely starting or haven't started comedy yet, and just we're going to focus on the bare bones basics of how to write jokes, how to pick a first open mic, what to expect, and eventually it may evolve into something else because eventually we're going to talk about everything.
Yeah, for sure. I'm glad this was my first formal uninvite, so I didn't realize. I thought it was comedians now.
Oh no, it is comedians now that we talk. So. Here's the thing.
He just uninvited me. You guys heard it.
We bring a comedian, and sometimes we'll have somebody who hasn't done it, but it's a comedian, and we talk. We're gonna cut 2 episodes per person. The first half is gonna be an interview, how did you start?
Okay,
what
gotcha.
Kind of open mic was your first open mic? Do you remember your first joke? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
Then the second half, we're going to have a topic, and it's going to be more of a roundtable kind of discussion about
I like that.
Bombing or, picking your first open mic. So sometimes it will be somebody that's never done stand-up before. Sometimes it'll be somebody who's brand new, and other times it'll be, hopefully we'll get some, successful, famous comics like you. Of shit. Yeah. And I noticed you did all your, famous, successful, touring comic friends, and then, people you really like in this scene, and then you were like, Adam,
what are you doing, buddy? I'm running out of people.
I gotta do Gary next. What the fuck?
No. I love how last night you were like, for Connor, we all just have to be successful. We have to do great, and Gary just keep trying.
I'm worried that he's I can't tell if he's just playing along with it or if it's actually bothering him. But
I think we just ride this wave and find out. We'll see.
We may be the first mass shooting at a comedy open mic
by a comedian.
Make a record. Yeah.
We're gonna be famous for real. Well, awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here, and I'm gonna put all of your shit down there so that way people can check you out and go follow you. Super funny guy. He is not brand new on the scene, but he's tearing it up. So go check him out. Thank you guys for watching. This is Life is Cooler with AC, and thank you.
Love you guys.
Perfect. He loves everyone.
Yes.